And now it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, the Honorable Cair Abdul Samad. Cair Abdul Samad is the representative of the 66th District in the Iowa House of Representatives. He served in that capacity since 2007, and before that he was a member of the Des Moines School Board. In addition, he's the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization in Des Moines called the Creative Visions Human Development Institute. He's a published author of a work called A Deeper Truth, Revelations of the Soul. In his work as a member of the Iowa House of Representatives, and frankly beyond, he's an advocate for education, he's an advocate for equality, and he's an advocate for so much more that each of us holds very dearly. It is my privilege to welcome to the stage Representative Abdul Samad.
First and foremost, I want to say I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. I also would like to say shalom to my Jewish brothers and sisters. I would like to say peace be upon you to my Christian brothers and sisters, and to my Muslim brothers and sisters, I say to you, Assalamu alaikum. I've noticed that when we said Assalamu alaikum, the few times this evening, it's really been weak, the response. This is a celebration. This is the 6th annual Cair Banquet. This is history. So when we say Assalamu alaikum, the reply should be back even stronger. So let's try that one more time, because my plane leaves at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I'm sure you don't want me to stay here at the podium till that. So let's try that one more time. Assalamu alaikum. Hey, now that's a winner. That's a winner. I'm only going to take a few minutes of your time because a lot has already been said. And there's no sense in repeating. There's no sense in being redundant. But I also want to thank the executive director and her work. Where is my sister at? Well, our sister who has did the work and invited me to come here. That's an honor for me to be here. To the congressman, to the board, to the advisory board, and to the volunteers. Because without you, this is not possible. I want to start off because they tell you that as you reach a certain age, you can tell how old someone is because they always tell a story first. So I'm going to tell my story first because I've reached that certain age. One of the things that we have to look at, and the reason why we have Cair, the reason why we're here today is because of perception. Because of perception people have. And perception is easy. And my story is about two little boys who people looked at. And people were talking about they were bad, you just couldn't, they wouldn't obey their mother and everything. So the mother went to a preacher and said, "What can I do?" And the preacher said, "Bring them to me in the morning." So she went home, and when she went home, she looked at the little boy. She told the little boy, she said, "You're going to go see the preacher in the morning." And the little boys looked up and said, "Okay." So they got up that morning, and the one little boy ran into the closet and hid. The other little boy, mom grabbed him by the arm and took him down and set him in front of the preacher. And the preacher was a nice-sized brother, and he stood up and he looked at the little boy. He said, "Do you know where God is?" And the little boy stiffened up. And he looked at him again and said, "Do you know where God is?" The little boy stiffened up. And the preacher turned around to grab a book. And the little boy jumped up and ran out the door, ran all the way home, got into the house, broke through the door, ran into the closet, looked at his little brother and said, "We really messed up. God is missing. They think we took him." Perception. Perception is why we're here. Because we didn't deal with perception. We didn't go to the root cause. And when you don't go to the root cause, that's when we have problems. because we deal cosmetically instead of systemically. It's easy to walk in and brace your teeth and put a kufi on and a nice suit and look good, but if you don't bathe, you have a problem. Because if you have all of that in a nice suit, but when you walk up to somebody and you're stinking, then most people don't have real conversations. They won't tell you you smell. They will be very polite to you. And then they'll talk about you when you leave. You see, we have to learn to have real conversations. We have to learn to start addressing who we really are. And I'm not talking about just as Muslims, I'm talking about as human beings. Because until you recognize human rights, civil rights doesn't mean a thing. If you don't recognize an individual as being a human being in life, then civil rights is cosmetic. We have to recognize each other, and we have a history of not dealing with human rights. That's what brought us here today. And I think, am I working with this now? I'm not, I'm technologically challenged. Is this okay? Yes. Somebody tell me, okay, so I can just put it. As the first one up, it says, the time is now, if not now, when, if not me, who? That means the time is now for us to address our problems. We have to talk about racism. We have to talk about sexism. We have to talk about discrimination. We have to talk about those things in some real conversations. We have to determine, is it an illness or a way of life? What we're dealing with today is an illness. It's not a way of life. It's an illness because we haven't dealt with it. It becomes a way of life because we don't address it the way that we should. When we look at the fact that it's easier to deny, rather a lot of times than to address. Because, denial, as we can see, is like the bird that sticks his head in the sand and acts like problems aren't going on. We have problems in this society. Remember they coined the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, and everybody used that, and everybody got excited about that. And that is fine, but it takes a village to raise a child only if you recognize the ills of the village. Because if you don't recognize the ills of the village, then we're raising our children in a world that the bird has stuck his head in the sand. We have to understand that society, as it says, society, prisons, and school life can be likened to the womb in many ways. That if the life inside becomes stillborn, the womb becomes the tomb. The question is, has our society become stillborn? Are we really dealing with the issues to make changes in our society? When we look at major influences in America today, when I was growing up, and when you hear somebody say, when I was growing up, they really go back. But back in the 1950s, and we're talking about what was the major influences in society. That was the home. It was school. It was the church. It was the mosque. Peers were down. TV was down. Parents weren't being friends with their children. They were being parents. My mother just passed away in January from cancer. And when she was diagnosed, I brought her home, and my mother, through her pain and the illness, showed me what a home is supposed to be.